Welcome back to the last Habs Weekly Recap of the year 2023 with the hockey coach, old coach Frenchy, directly for beautiful country of Thailand. And we have tonight all the way to Hawkesbury, Marko Larabi. And from Toronto, downtown, the caveman, Mr. Enortap. Welcome back in the house.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Yeah.
Here we go. December 17, 2023, 1 week before the Christmas. Hopefully, you're ready to rock and roll. You finish all the. I'm looking for Santa Claus and Thailand. So if one of you want to be Santa Claus, let me know. We're looking for that. But what we got tonight, guys, we'll talk about Montreal Canadiens. Finally, they have a week really good overall, 3-point on 4. We're going to give you who is going to win all the prediction. And then next week, Montreal going to play 3 games on the road Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday before they take a couple of days off. Then they're going to return on the road for 3 more games for finish the month of December. And it's going to be the depth of the triangle. I'm talking about Tampa, Florida, and Carolina. Whatsoever, the Carolina lost again 2-1 against the Washington Capitals and a shootout for that. Canucks win 4-3, and today against the Chicago Blackhawks. The Ducks lead 3-1 against the Devils. Someone can explain to me what's going on in the Metropolitan Division. That's a crazy. No one wants to finish top of the at the top of the division. 2 teams struggling, and I think the word is goaltender for both teams. But again, that's happening about that. A crazy game in Vegas, 2-2 after 20 minutes between Ottawa and the Vegas Golden Knights. And then the Sharks are losing 3-0 after 20 minutes. So that's what we get. Only 5 games on the program. We're going to give you a bit more result a bit later. And of course, RG is going to give us everything what we need to know about what's going on around the NHL. We have Roy from Bangkok is in the house tonight. Roy, thanks to be with us. Sharks back in the house directly for the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. And Gary Conway out of his UPS truck for the weekend, just relax at home. He said, I want a week with holidays, a lot of box in my truck. I don't like it at all. But he's okay, no baby. No big deal. Gary is going to finish strong your year 2023. And then Nicolas de Goubi-Bonneau, directly from la belle région de Québec. Directly from Sherbrooke, il était avec nous ce soir. Mon Nicolas de Goubi-Bonneau is with us. That's all what we got tonight. The subject of the night, ladies and gentlemen, he is alive. People thought he was never going to see any other goal as one a year, but no. Anderson is back. Martin Louis said this last week. Anderson responded with 2 goals during the week. 2 goals last night, by the way, again, the New York Islanders. Big goal from Anderson, second, the third of the season. And then, of course, if you follow us, but you're going to see the Habs win. Anderson 2 goal team effort. It was a video about I gave you the recipes of the Montreal Canadiens, the reason what they won. Going to talk about this a bit later. And finally, if you follow me on my other channel, Frenchy Thailand, it was Christmas in Thailand a couple hours ago, 7:00 p.m. We talk about Christmas, how they celebrate Christmas in Thailand, and that's happening about all the subject. But tonight we talk about the Montreal Canadiens. That Josh Anderson is back in the house with us, of course. But at the beginning of the show, before we welcome, we go everywhere, we're going to ask you, what's going on, Mr. Marko Larabi?
We typically would start the show with a little something we call headlines.
Headlines. You're absolutely right. You target exactly what we're supposed to talk in the first headline of the night. We'll go start with you, Marko. And we go. Keep or trade David Savard.
Yeah. So, listen, Montreal played against Pittsburgh earlier this week, and it was a nationally televised game on Sportsnet. So you have all the, Toronto-based media focusing in on a Habs game, which is rare. Sometimes when you hear the talking heads in Toronto talk about Montreal, you can tell they haven't watched any of the games. They don't really know what's going on. But Savard happened to just have a really good game that game. I think we all know what Savard is for those of us who actually watch the games and follow the team. But he scored a goal. Was solid defensively. So all of a sudden, I think that Savard might get a little bit more amplification in the marketplace, just because when Toronto media picks up on things, things can kind of amplify a little bit, right? So I know he's not the sexiest player, and he's not the sexiest player to watch, but I guess, Coach, the question is, and I think we were talking about this in the chat the last couple of days, is there's no question that his value, because he has another year in his contract. It's a pretty reasonable contract for somebody that, at the very least, is going to be probably one of the best bottom pairing defensive defensemen that you could get with Stanley Cup experience. And in a pinch, he could be, a second pairing defenseman, like a number 4. If you get deep into the playoffs, you start getting injuries. If you had to move him up to your top 4, he can do that too, right? So very, very valuable in the marketplace, especially as we get towards the trade deadline. But I guess the question is, what do you, depending on what you get for him, again, like, it really depends what the offer is. But I guess I'd be curious to hear about you guys. Like, what is an acceptable offer for David Savard, considering what he brings to the table, considering the fact that we have this really, really young decor. He's a right-handed defenseman that plays to stay at home. He's a big brother. He brings a lot of value to the team, guys. He brings a lot of stability back there. And with a young core, I guess the question is he more valuable staying in Montreal for the balance of this season and next year if you're only getting a second round pick for him? Even if you're getting a first round pick from, one of the top seeded teams, is it worth another, first round pick for, because if you look at the defenseman, because again, then you have the argument, okay, well, if you trade Savard, you can go ahead and you can get another experienced right-handed defenseman in the offseason as a UFA. Well, guys, if you look at what's available next year for UFA in terms of right-handed defensemen, I don't think you're getting the same caliber of defenseman, first of all, for right-handed, and certainly not somebody that that's passionate about playing in Montreal, wants to play in Montreal, is going to be a really great influence on all the kids. So I guess my question to you guys is, how much is enough for it to be worth it for Kent Hughes to actually move David Savard? I'm very curious to hear what you guys think. Start with Enortap. What do you think, man? Like, what would be your ask for it to be worth it?
Marko, you brought up some good points there. Personally, I believe while his value to Montreal is high in terms of having a young defenseman and having somebody with experience there, I think obviously if the right offer comes along, then you'd sort of be amiss not to at least entertain it. What could that be? I always maintain that around trade deadline time, teams go a little bit nuts, GMs, and tend to overpay. In Savard's case, he has an additional year of controllable contract. So that's kind of attractive for a team that wants to hang on. Like, it's very, very close now, and they fear, maybe if we don't win this year, we'll win next year, and we have that experience element in Savard there. He's obviously not going to be more than probably a second or possibly even a third pairing defenseman on various teams. If the offer comes along, I think you'd be sort of amiss not to.
But what's your minimum offer you're taking for him, Enortap? What's your minimum offer you're taking for him?
It's hard to say, Marko. Like, if you ask me, I would obviously love a first, but that's delusional. You're not going to get it, I don't think. That's why earlier, I did say teams, though, our GMs are a little bit crazy around that time. Like, if you try to get something high in the off season, forget about it. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get more than, I'd say, about a fourth for him. But at trade deadline time, I think a second or even a lower level prospect is a definite possibility that you'll get from a team. depending on what you're looking for, right? Because the contract's is not a big one to absorb by the team picking him up. So yeah, to answer your question, I would say, a second or a third, something like that. Right now, I entertain it.
You'd be willing to trade Savard for a second or third. So I find that surprising, Enortap, because for a second. So yeah, I find that surprising. Like, you and I have agreed in the past that, Montreal at this stage, they already have so many contracts. They've already made so many picks in the last 3-4 drafts, right? Like on average, we're picking like 7 or 8 players every draft over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised to hear you say that. So, acquiring another second round pick that has, like maybe a 8 to 10% chance of making the NHL versus somebody who's going to help you train and kind of really mentor the young D that you already have in your team, right? So I'm surprised, man. But I get it. Like, but Coach, what do you think? Like, what's the minimum amount of that you're taking for?
Don't forget, Marco, when you do, sorry, just to finish off, when you do have that many number of picks, they could pull off something like New Hook, where you package 2 of those picks. They might be either a late first or an early second, a couple of seconds, and get a reclaimed project from another team that maybe somebody else has lost hope with. So that's always the possibility. I guess what is good to have is options, and I think Montreal is putting themselves in that position that should something arise, they have tools in that toolbox.
Coach?
Hey, the time you were talking, I was thinking about the first year. Everybody wanted to trade him after 3 months. Like he was too slow. He could not do anything. He was struggling. He cannot do anything about that. My question would be not. I can't. I agree with you. But my question is about, okay, if you trade Savard, who do you have now? A right defenseman.
And if you look at what's coming in UFA next year, Coach, you're not getting somebody like, if you like, let me just go through some of the players that you have, that are coming up. Like you've got Klingberg, that's coming up. You don't have a lot of, you have Dumba that's coming up, but that's going to be a really pricey option for a right-hand defenseman. Like there's just not a lot of really good, stay at home, the type of profile of defenseman that you're going to want to play in your bottom pair that's going to solidify things. So it's like, I agree with you. Like it's not as easy to replace as you think. And then you're going to end up rushing somebody like Mayu or you're going to rush Reinbacher. I don't know. I don't see the rush personally. And again, like guys, we've talked about this. Like we have so many mid-level prospects. I get that you can package them up, but it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to package up, different picks and stuff like that to get like a real elite player.
Yeah, so that's why, but the reason why we said, keep a trade. I would say you keep because you don't have anybody to pick his spot right now. Play at the first line, play with Mike Madison, complete Mike Madison, the way Savard does for Mike Madison, or Savard what he can do with Caden Cooley. It's not Justin Barron first line. You don't have anyone right now in the Montreal Canadiens at this moment can play on the first pairing with Mike Madison. Mayu, for what I see so far, he's far. Like I think he needs one more year in Laval. I don't think so. He's ready to play with Montreal Canadiens. And Rebecca could be inserted in the roster, but you're not going to put him right away in the beginning at the first pairing, or take a risk to say, okay, we'll be fine. He's going to be fine to be at the first pairing right now. I think it's too high, risky for Ken Hughes to do that. So at the end of the day, they have no value to get in return to said we can trade David Savard because the Montreal are not at that position. You're absolutely right. If you go on the market on the UFA, you don't have that kind of plus you're looking for to take the spot of Savard at that moment. And the trade is funny because we said we can trade value. You have to give a lot more to get something very good. It's not a Jordan Harris or a Lindstrom or a defenseman that level we're going to make it fun to get someone you're looking for. Savard for right now, he's perfect, a good deal. I think his value, Marko Enortap, will be increasing at the trade deadline in 2025
Yes.
when he's going to have no contract at the end of the year, and then you can get something bigger, and you're going to be a little bit more in a position, Marco, to see where we at as a team, as a app prospect. So that's maybe my best
Exactly.
answer I give to you.
Yeah, I for once, coach, we 100% agree. I agree. Like next year, you have you have one more year of eyeballs on kind of where's Mayu, where's Reinbacher, where's Barron, where are they in their progression. So I think, comme on dit en français, partie remise pour l'année prochaine when it comes to trading Mr. Savard. So all right, guys.
Yeah,
Well,
I think a more interesting piece, not to take this off the rails right now, but would be Matheson. I still maintain you get more value
yeah,
for Matheson, and it doesn't hurt you on that side of the ice. So yeah,
I agree.
I would agree.
All right, let's
Awesome.
move on to okay, Marco.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, point number two. Zuko ski. Is this a new mark of the ice cream, Mr. Enortap? What?
Yeah, it's a very flavorful ice cream. It's the new nickname for our first line. And just Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slavkovsky, of course. I just very briefly wanted to bring up the fact that I'm sure everybody's noticed how much more engaged that entire line has been over the last, I'd say, week at least, probably even longer. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Slavkovsky's bringing a different dimension to that line. I mean, when you look at when Doc was playing on there, and again, not to necessarily compare them with Slavkovsky, but they're both big players. They're strong. They have great possession drivers of the play. Uh, I'm finding that they're hard on the forecheck, and they're also he's starting to, even Slavkovsky right now is starting to get very very patient with the puck. He's not as he's not as inviting to get rid of the puck as he was earlier on in the year. And you notice that like both of them had a positive impact on that line. I did a little bit of digging earlier on and looked, without getting too much into it. I looked at both the Corsi and the Fenwick, a little bit deeper analytics into the line, and just very briefly, when you're talking about the Corsi, it's looking at the shot attempts. So that's things like shots on goals, block shots, missed shots, and also the Fenwick is pretty much the same thing from what I understand, but it just doesn't include the block shots in that category. And the entire line has gone from a 49% expected goals for to a 60% expected goals for since Slavkovsky has joined that line. And the other thing that he's been rewarded with has been increased ice time, as we saw. I think in the Islander game, he was it the Islander or the Pittsburgh game. I think he logged just over 19 minutes. The other game, I think it was 17 and a half minutes. So he's getting the opportunity, and even I noticed the Islander game when it was still close before the empty net goal. Martin St. Louis rewarded him by putting him on the ice at a critical part of the game. So I think that those are all small indicators right now of where hopefully this line will be moving towards. I loved yesterday as well, just on a very brief aside, the way Caulfield brought his game a little bit more to life. And not just because he scored. I just thought, especially in that first period, he seemed to be all over the ice. He was making opportunities. He was creating opportunities for himself, and picking up his man a lot better than I've seen him in the past. So again, those are all very good indicators to me that they're moving in the right direction with these guys. Would
Agree,
you
man.
Would you think, Mark?
Yeah, well, I think what's even more impressive for a young player. Like, remember, guys, we were anticipating that Slavkovsky was going to improve, right? But then we were all very conservative in saying, guys, it's not going to be a straight line improvement. But to me, what's most encouraging is how consistent he's been in terms of how effective he's been. Now, again, he's not consistently putting up points, but the impact that he's having to the games is pretty consistent, right? Like, there's not many games where you haven't seen him. He's been very consistent with what he brings to that line. And you're right, like all the underlying numbers that you're talking about, Enortap, like magic. Because if you looked at Suzuki and Caulfield together, we used to bring that up here, and that's why we weren't shocked when they separated them, because they didn't drive a lot of kind of good underlying metrics together, right? So for the first time, we're really starting to see those underlying metrics be very positive. And I think what you could see here is 3-2, by the way, for Vegas now. So what you saw is Caulfield bringing the puck again more towards the middle of the ice. Sandy, we talked a lot about this. It wasn't just about Caulfield in particular, but you could see Caulfield was trying to get more to the middle of the ice. Where was he when he scored? He wasn't all the way to one of the circles, like he was in front of the ice. Sandy, we've been talking a lot about that, wanting two forwards to actually kind of end up at the front of the net. And I think what's interesting from what Sandy Wee has as a plan is that it's not, when you enter the zone, go right to the front of the net and just sit there, because sometimes you're ahead of the play, right? And that's kind of some of the criticism that we've had of Anderson, and I know we'll talk about Anderson a bit later. His goal is very similar, right? It's arriving at the place and being at the front of the net, but also getting there at the right time, right? Like, if you're there too early and you're not there to support the forecheck, if you're not in deep enough to support the forecheck, then the forecheck will die. So, and sometimes we know with Anderson, he just skates 100 miles an hour and he's like ahead of the play sometimes, right? So what I found for Suzuki is, again, Slavkovsky is providing he's winning battles along the wall, recovering pucks, extending offensive zone time. But Caulfield, I liked his touches yesterday, getting more towards the center of the ice. Overall, it was a great game for 2 periods, anyways. Yesterday, I know we'll talk more about the game, but you're right, Enortap. Like, this line continues to progress, and it's very positive.
And Coach and Marko, I've also noticed that he's starting to slowly develop a little bit of grit to him. Like, he gets involved in plays, scrums after the play is dead, and he goes in there to defend his teammates. And it looked like the other night he almost wanted to get into a second fight. It's a good thing he stayed away from the penalty box, but it's good to see, because it to me it means he's engaged, and he's working very hard to get to where he's gotten so far. But it's still going to be a long road ahead.
Just look him in this picture too. Like, next to Caulfield, he's a big dude, man. Just like, when you see this picture, like, it's like, geez, man, he's so big.
All right.
Still reminds me of Pete Mahovlich.
Let's finish it with the last headlines of the night. Many lessons between the game between the New York Islanders to Montreal Canadiens. So good for 2 periods. We look like an amazing, great team. So bad during the 3rd period. Look like we are not where we're supposed to be. And the words is always said to me, since beginning season. Martin St-Louis said, searching one word, consistency, on every categories of the game. And Martin St-Louis, more you listen to him, more you watch him, how he talk, he's so smart. People evaluate him more about the outcome, winning, losing, return of that. People say he's not a good coach. He's a pee-wee coach, blah, blah, blah. But if you think about when he talk about the details, when he start talking about the details of the game, that's where you realize Martin St. Louis is maybe one of the best in the NHL. He does not have the horse yet. And the horse he had, they don't know what to do yet. But when he's going to have the system with the right people and place, and they apply the system, it's going to be a great team. and he's getting there. How many? And if you evaluate what happening in November, we have a good start in October. And in November, what he have a difficulty, it was the forecheck. He took about him 3 days on 1 week in November. We have a break to show them the forechecking how is so important. The second thing, they're teaching them when you lose the puck on the offensive zone, when you are whatever 185 feet for the net, that's what you need to starting to play defensive right away with there and not wait when we go back on defensive zone. Those details of the game make the team better. And when you apply this, exactly what Martin wants, that gave you two great period, exactly what he did against the New York Canadiens. On the third period, it was really difficult for them because now when you play a team, they have no pressure. They play more like a pound hockey team where you have nothing to care about the score, but just have a fun at the end of the night. But that happened, the Montreal is struggling. But the growth of Martin St. Louis is so good. That's the reason I said many lessons because he learned how to take a timeout at the right time. Not afraid to make a
Yes.
timeout with them. Not afraid to explain to them to calm down everything. He used the 3F, the flying, the frozen, and the fight as on the press conference with that. Those technique, those details, that's what make Martin St. Louis better today. Time management last night. No forward play 20 minutes. Why? Discipline for the Montreal Canadiens. Why? Only 3 minor penalties during the game over there. If you calculate everything like that, that's the reason you get out that game. We did great, but we still have a long way to get what we're supposed to be. And that's exactly you have the hot and the cold with the Montreal Canadiens many times. People said they don't keep the lead. If you look about the record of the lead, they are, I think, at 12-1 only during when they take the lead at the third period. It's pretty good. The fact they win a lot at the overtime is shootout are helping them the record, but still, it's a process about that. They are a young team, and that's the reason I feel like today was a many lesson for the Montreal Canadiens. That's the reason why we're rebuilding, and that's the reason we are on progression. It's like about development. And you just in our time just talk about the fact like they need to progress. We develop all three together. They are bigger number that line, and then in our Marko, we talk about a mentor like Savard may be more valuable. And that's the reason you put this all together as the many lessons they get from a many different players inside of the Montreal Canadiens. So, and after, if you want to add something.
I was just going to say, and yet again, I always take this opportunity and look closely every single game. In both these two games, Pittsburgh and the Islanders, we won the battle on the face-off dot again. Pittsburgh, who's actually the leader in the NHL on face-offs, I think we won 52% of those. And yesterday was remarkable, 67% against the Islanders. So if you have the puck, it's to your advantage all the time. Very important.
So, coach, like to your point, like I believe Montreal is the only NHL team right now that's undefeated when they go into a third period with a lead. I think now they're 6-0. So they've had situations where they've gotten a lead in the third period and then give it away and went to overtime. But if going like now again, it's only happened 6 times, which is a whole other story, right? So if they went into the third period with a lead more often, maybe they would have had more opportunities to blow a lead. But yeah. But I think you're bang on, coach. Like that was definitely one of the things I wanted to bring up tonight is it a coincidence that Montreal played so well, especially on the forecheck when they had 2 days of practice that was pretty much focused on that, right? So when St. Louis actually has days of practice to focus with the team, then and remember going into the season, coach, that's what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see, okay, is St. Louis going to be able to evolve as a coach? And the proof is in the pudding. Like he's telling us exactly, okay, so this is what we've been practicing over the last 2 days. And then as fans, we go watch the games and you can immediately see progress in the thing that they've been working on. So if you're a fan and you're passionate about the team improving, that is exactly what you want, right? Like nothing, they can't fix everything at once, right? And St. Louis is very cautious about not throwing too much information, especially at young players, because it can be too overwhelming. So, for me personally, I can't wait until he focuses on the defensive zone coverage, because I think that is probably the most impactful investment that they can make as a team in practice, to me, that's where you start, is defensive zone coverage in terms of investing time in practice. I still think that there's a lot of room for improvement there. So hopefully that's the next area that St. Louis chooses to emphasize. But you're 100% right, Coach. Like it's no coincidence that they only played 2 games last week. They had time to practice, and boom, all of a sudden, St. Louis has a very targeted plan of what he wanted to see from his team improve, and we saw it. So very good.
Yeah.
That's the best that we can ask for, is the players learning. The one thing that St. Louis said, though, just to wrap up, is that sometimes he says it's hard to juggle, right? Because the forecheck will get better, but then the thing that they had just been working on before starts to slip, right? So that's the one thing, right? Is St. Louis talked about, think about kind of like a textbook in school, right? So if you're on before you go to chapter 4, you want to make sure that everybody has passed chapter 3. Now that you're confident that you've everybody understands chapter 3, then you can move to chapter 4. What you don't want, though, is when you get to chapter 5, you realize all the players have forgotten everything in chapter 2, and you have to go all the way back to chapter 2 again, because you have to reteach chapter 2 because they've forgotten it, because they're so focused on chapter 3 and chapter 4, right? So what you hope is the players, yes, they can learn something new, but they don't forget and continue to apply all the other things that they've learned along the way, if that makes sense.
Marco, I love the educational analogies you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure that, yeah, right up your alley.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot to say that many lessons, it's rare Montreal Canadiens take the lead by 3 or 4 goals at the beginning of the third period. So this is another lesson to learn about that, because now what do you do with that? That becomes the pound hockey where the other team says, you know what, if I'm a coach right now losing 4-0, the only thing you said to your players, just try to win the third period. Don't worry about the goal. Don't worry about the score. Just have fun on the ice right now. Just play hockey. Have fun tonight. It is what it is. We don't have to blame anybody here. So you go there on the ice at the third period with no pressure. Montreal never been in that situation. One, it's not structured. You don't have any more 2-1-2, 1-2-2. But the plan you prepare before the game does not count. That's what Martin St. Louis explained. Whatever I told them between the second, third period does not count anymore, because Montreal need to learn what they have to do when the team does not play like usually with structure or organized, so or planification. So that's happening about that. I was just sharing that part about Martin St. Louis. That's the video I make yesterday. I don't know if you watched the video I did yesterday, but that was the recipes on the Montreal Canadiens to win again in New York Islanders. That's what you need to do every single game. Hopefully they can apply this on 60 minutes. And that was the word consistency I bring to you at the beginning. That's what's happening. It's a roller coaster when you have a young team. You have a great moment, great flashing moment. Sometimes it's a bad flashing moment. But that's, as a fans, we cannot to be excited when it's great now, thinking going to be a playoff team, and then we have a bad moment. Oh my God, they're going to be bad for over. They're never going to reach. Just stay neutral. Just to follow the process of 5 years we're building.
And Coach, exactly. It's pretty rare that a team is going to play a perfect 60-minute game too, right? Like I think one of the things that you want to see, like let's say take the Islanders game, for example, right? So there's going to be times where the other team, like you said, they decide, they throw the playbook out the window and they go rogue and they just try to create something, and they're going to have a push, right? And so really it's like in the playoffs, right? Like the team that is able to manage changes in momentum during a game are the ones that usually do the best, right? So that's what you want as a team. No team, even the best teams in the league, are not going to play perfect at 100. Remember one of my headlines like a couple weeks ago was it's an 80-20 league, right? You can't play 100% all the time. You got to try to play 80% most of the time so that you can just be consistent, right? So what you want in a game like the Islanders is, okay, so they score that one goal, they score the second goal, you need to stop the bleeding. That's what good teams are able to do, right? Is every team's going to have mistakes, every team's going to have little lapses where, or the other, it's the NHL. There's good players all around the league, so they're going to make plays, they're going to make something happen. It's how, as a team,
that's why
you stop the bleeding, right?
Yeah, that's why that timeout was well advised. It really did go a long way to help. But I mean, just a couple things to throw in as well. I know we've painted many nice and positive situations. We do have to keep in mind that both Pittsburgh and the Islanders were on back-to-backs, whereas Montreal wasn't, as you mentioned and alluded to, Marco. They did have time to practice as well, and I think that was reflected in their play. I think a much more truthful test will come on Monday when they have to play Winnipeg, even though we do tend to play well against Winnipeg. We just don't necessarily match up well size-wise and hitting-wise. So it's going to be a tough game on Monday.
Sorry about that. I'm busy with everything that's shot about that. When GSM put me in Montreal in the playoff, I'm getting crazy, man. Stop me. I don't know what to do anymore.
We can't jump there.
I don't know.
And this is the ironic part, because we talk about growth and like not too long ago, we made a comparison. Last year after this many games, this year after this many games, have we shown growth? And we mentioned the fact that it's hard to gauge right now, because you can't just take a period of time and make an assumption or a blanket statement based on that time alone, right? I think injuries has had a lot of it has really dictated a lot of how our play has changed, and maybe why we haven't developed at a slightly better rate than we should have. When you have a team that doesn't have, as Coach was saying, that elite player on your team, when you lose somebody like Doc, who right now might not be an elite player, may never be, I don't know, but he's definitely a very good player. You lose somebody of his ilk, it's hard. It's hard to recover, and you're shifting people and you're putting them in different roles, and it takes time for them to adapt. They don't have that deepness. They don't have that richness to their lineup that they can afford to lose a player and still carry on, like, let's say, a Tampa Bay could.
Well, Tampa Bay, you can argue their depth has definitely taken a hit this year as well. But
this year, yeah.
But you're right, Enortap. Like, if you compare this year to last year, if you look, like, around this time of the year is when the players really started to fall like dominoes for Montreal, right? And the records were pretty similar, but this is where things really started to fall. This trip, which I'm sure we're going to dive into, is usually a hellscape for the Canadiens, right? Like the Christmas road trip is not usually very kind to them. And last year, as we know, like they really got nailed with injuries. But we saw those injuries come a lot earlier this year. So in a way, you could argue that they're maybe even a bit ahead of where they were last year, because the injuries came a bit earlier. But that we're just, again, we always say we shouldn't be too focused on results, because, again, like, a lot of the points that Montreal's gotten so far this year are artificial, in my opinion, from goaltending, right? So let's not get too carried away with the points. I think what Coach showed us a couple weeks ago is, in every single major statistic that matters, like goal differential, special teams, 5-on-5 play, all those things. Sorry, am I skipping ahead, Coach?
No, you hit the nail right now. I want to, because I'm right there. I want to show something, guys. Seattle, San Jose Sharks, Chicago Blackhawks, Anaheim Ducks, Columbus Blue Jackets, Montreal Canadiens, Seattle Kraken, Calgary Flames, Buffalo Sabres, St. Louis Blues, Washington Capitals. That's give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 team. All right? All those same team are minus double digits. Who do you believe, at the name I just mentioned, are going to make the playoff?
It's going to be hard for any, like Washington, just because you're mentioning how bad the Metropolitan is, but I doubt it. I doubt any of those teams will make it.
All right. So Montreal is right now is 4 and it's 5th in the NHL at minus 20, right? And then the only thing I'm surprised, I'm going to shock you guys, is after that is a Tampa Bay Lightning at minus 9. The New York Islanders are -6, and the Wild are -4 or 5. If you are now, like Devil are -3 before the game tonight, maybe not.
They're at 1 now. They're at
Yeah,
1.
Yeah.
but if you're double digit, right? If I said that start at Washington all the way to San Jose. This is the stat you need to look all the time. All the time. You have to get there because what happening is you don't score enough goal to win the game. You gave more goal at what you score. That's a simple,
Yeah,
maths formula. It's not. It's not the,
but so
Yeah, to a
genius to
certain
be there,
degree.
right?
there's a way you can explain that though too, right? Like it could happen. It could be a statistical anomaly where, let's say you're the Islanders and you play lots of close games, you win a lot of games 2-1, 3-2, but then when you lose 6-0 or 6-1. So the goal differential
Yeah.
might look worse because the games that you lost, you got blown out, but the games that you won were very tight margin, low scoring games. So
Exactly.
it could be a
But
little
That's
bit
like
remember,
different.
we are
that's
already
like
like
Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah.
-9.
Like Tampa Bay lost. They lost one game, I think, to Calgary, if I'm not mistaken, 8-0, and then they lost another game 5-0. I mean, two
Yeah.
of those games could really skew things.
Yeah, I'll just give you an idea because Marco, you talk about this. You have a lot of people in the chat. First of all, don't forget, guys, to click on the like. We have Patrick Leblanc back in the house, GSM, but we have Randy Walkman back in the house tonight. Maurice Robillard, a great conversation. We talk about Willie Snyder a bit maybe earlier about the King of Gamer is with the Hockey Nation show tonight. Roger Delaney with KLS is all in the house tonight. Jake McAnooey. He is with us tonight. A lot of conversation in the chat, a lot of great conversation, a lot of great comments. We can go all the way about that. I know some people ask a question. We apologize. We'll just go through what we got in front of you tonight. And Alain Bianca, does the panel think Caulfield can score 25 goals?
Yeah, I think he can get to 25.
Yeah, he's also very streaky as well, right? Once he
Yeah.
starts scoring, he scores in bunches.
Question for King. What do you guys think the development of Martin Saint-Louis can use? Let's not forget they are also rookie and come to the job. I would say let's skip Martin Saint-Louis. We talk about him, but what do you think about Ken Hughes and Enortap?
I really like what the management has done so far. And again, I know it's not a big sample space, but the trades that they've made, the acquisitions that they've acquired, through even the way they've drafted, I know, we would have loved to have picked up that elite, draftee like a Connor Bedard or something. But you have to have luck with that as well. But so far, everything they've done, I don't recall really anything that they've done that was discouraging, and anything that they've done sort of has, in one way, helped the team. And you could also see where their thinking process is at and what they're trying to get to down the road. So I'm pleased with them so far, and they're not rookies, right? I mean, Hughes is, but Gordon's been around with a couple different other organizations in that capacity. So to me, even though in name it's Hughes who's the GM, I think it's more of a collaborative approach.
I know. I think there's a lot of this that you have to wait and see, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of fans that still question, some of the draft, kind of what's happened in the draft. Only time will tell what's whether those picks, and ultimately Hughes is and Gordon are the ones that are responsible for making the final call when it comes to those first round picks in particular. So to me, that's one area that we can't really have a final grade on yet. You're giving them benefit of the doubt that they made the right picks for the organization. The one blemish for me was the Allen contract. We've talked about that a little bit, but he hasn't done anything. Overall, I think everybody's really happy with the progress that Hugo is making so far. Some might be critical of the goalie carousel that we have right now. Be nice if you could resolve that as well, but it's not easy.
It will
Coach,
be. It will.
can I ask you a favor? You know that breaking news sound that you do? I have breaking news that I want to share. Actually, you know the breaking noise news sound that you make, the sound.
Yeah,
Dun,
yeah.
dun,
Can you?
dun. Go for it, Marco.
Breaking news. You're hearing it first here on Hockey Nation Live. The Ottawa Senators are not going to make the playoffs, guys. They are not going to make the playoffs.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me they fired DG Smith between the second period, the third period.
Oh, that was a letdown, Marco.
How many live he can get? Like this is yeah. Honestly, we talk about Montreal, but you cannot go down. This is the last game. He cannot stay there. This is getting worse and worse and worse. Like they're still in the race to be part of the playoff, and I don't know. At least they want to not make the playoff, but this is not management. They have to figure out something. This is over. This is
Yeah,
over 1 month ago, and they're still not there. This trip is they are what 0-3 right now. It could be wrong, but
yeah,
they're not
yeah.
looking
Because if you
good.
look, like, you're hoping that the games in hand were going to mean something, but if you let's say they win all the games in hand that they have with Montreal, they'd only be 2 points ahead of Montreal if they win all the games they have in hand on Montreal.
And you know
So
what? And
And
people say, yeah, you have a new GM. Wait for him. You get this. Just get him an interim right now. Just get him someone. That's it. That's all. Just remove him, and that would give them maybe some fresh inside the locker room. Because right now it's toxic. It's toxic behind the bench. It's toxic in the locker room. This have to stop. That's just
that's that's because it's been allowed to fester to this point, there, gentlemen. I think before you do anything else in a rebuild, or you have to have your management in place. And this has been a real titanic struggle for Ottawa for the last 3 or 4 years. They finally got the owners in place. Now they're, the GM is in question, the coach is in question, because you don't want to fire him and then bring in somebody else, and then you get your GM and he doesn't agree with the philosophy of the coach, and it's a mess. You have to work from a top-down approach, and that's not what they've done. And it's getting frustrating for the players because, obviously the players want to win, and you're seeing Kachuk now, getting involved in fights. I understand why he's doing it. He's trying to bring some spark to the team, but they're ill-advised fights at some points, and it hurts them more than helps them.
sorry,
great
guys, I
point
didn't
about
want to
that.
take us off track, but it just I'm watching the highlights of the game, and it's just I can't believe how terrible.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. What we got tonight, I Habs Weekly. It was 1-0-1 for the Montreal Canadiens. They lost against Pittsburgh Penguins in a shootout, I believe. In New York Canadiens, they beat them by the score of 5-3. For the Montreal Canadiens, now they are 1-0-1, 13-13-4, 6 in the NHL, 21st and the standing before the game start tonight. So it could have maybe some change. I don't know. But little bit like both of you just go through, give us a bit your update about what you think about the Montreal Canadiens. We clear the people in the chat you gave us. People stood out overall for the week, and everybody bring your conversation. The chat we're going to follow. I'm going to follow with you guys in the chat, and Marko and Enortap is going to talk about, review weekly. You can talk about the game Pittsburgh or the New York Islanders. And maybe you start out at the player of the week for both of you. So let's move on that direction. Let's start with Marco this time.
Yeah, well, guys, I think last week I predicted that they wouldn't get any points. I almost reconsidered because I didn't know that they were both going to be on back-to-backs. But and Enortap brought that to my attention. But I don't like to go with the same predictions that Enortap usually has. But all in all, I'd say it's a good week. In terms of results, 3 out of 4 points, very good, very exciting. We had that marathon shootout, which is awesome, so fun. Great call. If you haven't watched Coach's play-by-play of the 12-round shootout, I recommend go back onto the channel and you should watch all of them. But especially just go watch the play-by-play of the shootout. Is very entertaining. Good job, Coach. But lots of fun. In terms of what we're looking for in terms of consistency, obviously that wasn't there, overall. There's definitely some periods of time where they're losing control of games. But again, like I was saying earlier, right? Like there's a lot of parity in the NHL, and Sidney Crosby just basically took over the game. To be honest, that's really what it came down to for that game. And Pittsburgh, they just got the confidence of finally scoring on the power play the game before. So, the hands are a bit looser coming into that game. And I think they went 2 for 3 on the power play against Montreal. So the PK for Montreal continues to be a huge, huge problem. Really not improving there. I think we're under 60% for the month of December in terms of penalty kill rate, which is just insane, right? Like, mind-blowingly bad. So some other things, like we've already talked about the Slavkovsky line with those guys, but let's give a little shout out to the Monahan, Evans, and Anderson line, which is, I don't think anybody would have seen that line and be like, Evans, Monahan, and Anderson, and kind of had too much faith that was going to work. But I felt at some points in the game, even the Dvorak, Gallagher, and Armia line, like they were actually probably the ones that were implementing. Remember, we talked about saying we really wanted them to forecheck. The whole plan was forechecking. They practiced that during the week, and they also practiced going to the front of the net. I'd say the Monahan line or the Evans line and the Dvorak line were probably even more consistent than the Suzuki line at executing on that game plan. If you look at the Pittsburgh game and even the Islanders game, like Gallagher, even going back to that Boston game where Gallagher, was the only one that showed up and had this amazing warrior style. I say Gallagher has been really consistent since that game. And again, he's been going to the net, and so were those other lines. So very, very pleasant there. Montembeault got 2 starts in a row. He continues to play really well. I believe the league average for save percentage is around 903, and I think he's rocking like a 911 save percentage right now, so well above the league average. So lots of positive things, guys. And I think we've talked about kind of a lot about what Coach was talking about, like a lot of the lessons that they're learning. I think we're seeing a lot of good things. So good week, better than I expected anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing this road trip. It was a really nice way to end the homestand because, as we know, the homestand didn't go super well if you look at results, but really nice way to end it with that nice win against the Islanders.
Definitely. And you hit on a lot of good points there, Marco. There's not much more to add, except I would like to see, I've noticed that the defensive core, again, has given up a lot of mistakes in their own end. That needs to be cleaned up a little bit more. As long as your teams are able to recycle, it tires out the defense. And we're noticing a lot of times when they have the clock on how long they've been on the ice, it's longer than they need to. And when that happens and you get tired, that's when mistakes are made, and the other team usually converts it to a goal. You're right about the penalty kill. That's what got the whole thing started with the Islanders' slight comeback. It was that shorthanded goal by Nelson. Had they scored on the power play, I think at that point the Islanders would have thrown in the white towel, and the rest would have been history. The other thing, I believe Yolonen has to get top 6 minutes. This guy he's got a lot of talent, and he needs to play with more talented players in order to demonstrate that. There's a reason why he's now the 3rd guy when it comes to shootouts to come out there and shoot. He's got amazing stick handling skills. I just want to see. Yeah.
Did you hear what St. Louis said about Yolonen this week? Because I think we've all been wondering why
he wasn't impressed.
Yeah, I
think because of the defensive responsibilities, but that I think that comes with time. It's something that you learn. It's when you see somebody has those innate skills, you have to try to coach it and bring it to greater fruition. And I think we have something good in Yolonen, but he has to be given that opportunity to demonstrate it. And right now, I would say I think we've seen Stevens long enough. I think he's kind of invisible to me, right out there. I mean, he hasn't done anything necessarily wrong, but I haven't seen anything that sort of moves the meter for me. I would like to see Heineman go in there, and let's see if he can
Who's
bring a
going to
little
play
bit more
center?
physicality.
Who's going to play center though? If you take him out, Stevens on the fourth line.
Well, you'll have to make some kind of adjustment. You're right about that, but and again, that means you're juggling lines, at least your third and your fourth lines. But I just the point being, I'd like to see Heineman in there and see what he's capable of. He's got a very
He'll play
good
on,
shot. He's quick.
he'll play on the.
So, yeah.
All right, Coach.
Interesting.
What do you think?
Were you even listening to anything we said?
No, not at all. I listened to all of you about that part of there, but I was thinking
Not at
about
all.
that because I followed the chat. I was thinking about that stood out about that. It was funny because between both game, Pittsburgh and the Islanders,
New York.
Martin St.
Yeah.
Louis did a lot of things. I was disagree with him at Pittsburgh, like 30-minute Madison, 26-minute Zuski, all in only 9 minutes, everything like that. And I was like, I was going to make a video about, okay, Martin St. Louis need to understand what you need to do. Then again, the Islanders. Um, and it's hard because the league it become a three line. It's not a four line. If you look about all the team, they really use three lines. Like look Colorado. Like if you all play on the third line, four line, you sit almost all game. Like Tatar left because he cannot play. They play honestly McKinnon, Rettenen only 24, 25 minutes almost every game. This is how they become. But when you become a game with many penalties, power play, PK, this is a problem because the TY right now is always the same player is on the ice, obviously. So for
But
me,
not all teams. But not all teams play like that, Coach. Like teams that are really
No.
top heavy, like the Avalanche and the Leafs, for sure they'll be like that, right? But if you look at Vegas and if you look at Carolina, well, Carolina's weird this year. The Islanders, they play with a lot more balanced lineup, right? So I think you're right. Like Suzuki is a lot more effective when they bring him down around 19 minutes and they spread the ice time around for sure. But you like Toronto, like if you talk like a lot of players that have been interviewed that have left Toronto, asking, why do you think it's not working in Toronto? Nobody feels like they're, and the same thing with Edmonton. It's the thing that they both have in common. When you have, it's almost like you have two teams in one team. You have the top line that plays like their own game, and then there's the B team that fill the rest of the time, and they don't all play the same way. They don't feel like they're part of the same team at all. And so to me, that's the danger when you start playing somebody too many minutes. And when you have McDavid playing the full 2 minutes of a power play, I know it's tempting to do that, but you need to give the other guys on the team a role, and you need to make them feel like they're part of it. So
now
I much
sometimes Marco, you have to remember the game talk to you, right? He explains all of it. The game
Yeah.
talk to you. So
Yeah. Of
sometimes
course.
do you lead? Do you trail? Where are you right
Yeah.
now in the game? You,
Yeah.
the time sometimes change. I understand that, but I
For
feel
sure.
like Montreal gave too much minute and Madison and Zuski um, during the year right now. I think they should sharing a little bit more the time. Like Strobel and Kovacevic played last game pretty good, 16 minutes almost, but before that,
Struble.
That's right.
13 minutes only.
I can't believe we haven't talked about Struble yet, guys. It's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
And I would throw in there. I think Randy in the chat mentioned it. I liked what I saw from our Mia in the last couple games as well. It
Yeah.
just shows that what he is capable of when he puts his mind to it.
For
He
sure.
just
I
doesn't
think
do
we
it
all
on a
know.
consistent basis.
I think we all know what he's capable of. Like
Yeah.
just watching that 2021 playoff run, right? Like
Now, what I would, it's funny because you talk about Amir. I was going to talk about him right now because people talk about this, right? Amir have a style fit perfectly with Martin Saint Louis. The only
yeah,
problem behind that is not Amir's fault. It's because he carry on at $3.4 million. But if you give him a contract at $2 million, play bottom six with that, right? He fit very
Oh yeah.
well. He
perfect.
played well
Perfect.
on the puck protection. He forecheck well. He's a big body. He's not going
Penalty
to
kill.
hit everybody to fall, but he's really smart. He understands very well. He's very good on defensive zone coverage. The guy, he can play PK.
Yeah,
Very good with PK. He's
very
our
good.
Yeah.
best.
Yeah,
I'd say
So
he's our best penalty killer for sure.
So for me, he fit on Martin Saint Louis. The problem behind that is a $3.4 million. So I think, at the beginning, many people say you should send Armia Vita that. I think they're going to keep a little bit longer Armia, and maybe Armia until the transition, it could be resigned at lower price if they fit. They don't have enough winger at that moment. We will see in the next year, but I think at that moment is a guy can make a lot of good minutes for the Montreal Canadiens right now for at least with the play he role the role he's played right now as the third line for the Montreal Canadiens.
I don't know if in the medium term you can have Gallagher and Armia, to be honest, because again we've talked about you basically Armia is taking Yolonen's spot right now. We've talked about this for the last 2 years. I'm not disagreeing with you that Armia matches very well with the
it's
system.
the
I
money.
like Armia. I think he's a good player, very valuable on the PK, puck battles, all that. I like Armia, but I find it hard to envision in the next 2-3 years a roster that includes Gallagher and Armia on the right wing. I just don't know how you make
Yeah,
it work if you
it's the
if you want
money. It's the money, Marco.
not even just the money, it's the roster spots. Like guys, if we're going to be evolving into something else here, we've finished bottom 5 the last 2 years here, right? So if
No, the
you're
point, Marco, you try to bring is like where in 2 years, I think we all agree Gallagher will be a 4 line. He
Yeah,
cannot
okay,
be on your top 9. It's
okay,
impossible,
no,
right?
no,
okay.
no.
So now you're going to figure out, okay, who we get, Gallagher or you keep Armia.
That's what I
And they
mean. You
can
can't have
slide Gallagher out there. And I
yeah.
would keep Armia at 2 point less at $1.52 million.
Like I said, you can't. I don't
Depends
see a
on the.
world where you can have both. I don't see where you can have both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's a
agree.
good point about that. That's my point because you bring a good point about that. You cannot have both for sure. And in 2 years, who knows going to get as a roster will be completely changed. I don't think so. Jacob will be there. The work is not going to be there. Mane is going to not going to be there. Pearson is not going to go be there. So we have a lot of chance about that. But if the problem
Hope
you
so.
don't have
Hope
enough to
so.
fill up everybody.
Hope the roster won't be the same. Better not be.
Definitely. Definitely, it's not going to be a sign about that one over there. They are not slam drunk forward prospect coming soon. About that question, does the panel believe Jacky would be called back up soon? That's a good question.
Yeah, I
I don't.
definitely think so. I mean,
How
yeah,
is that you?
after that first game, I know Coach was a little bit hot-headed about it, but I understand. Like it was his first game back and whatnot, but he's played very well from what I read and the little bit I saw of Laval already in the last 3 games. He's gotten, I think, an assist in each of the 3 games. So he's starting to impose his physical self again. I think though they're exploring possibilities, but he'll definitely be up, and I think sooner than later.
I don't see how that's possible. Like
Me
unless
too.
there's a whole bunch of injuries. Like
Well,
I
it's
don't disagree.
you got to
I
bring
don't
somebody
disagree.
down, Marco. You got to
Who
bring
you
somebody
bring?
down. That
Man,
you,
Mark, and after you
well,
forget, Aris is coming soon.
And he's not
well,
he's not.
Harris won't surpass him.
What?
Yeah, but Harris, you have to. He's not waiver exempt, right?
Who?
So that's really Harris is
Harris,
not waiver
Harris.
exempt. So that he's not. So that makes
I
it
think
really
he
tricky.
is, but I can be wrong. I think last time we checked,
Yeah,
but
he's not. Sorry, he's not
no, I
waiver.
think he is.
He is.
He played 80 game.
Yeah, so he would have
Yeah,
to go on
so
waiver. He
he
has to
would.
go on
Yeah,
waiver. Yeah. So to me, that makes it even the path for Jacky. It means you're jumping over 2 guys now, because guys, I know we all love Jacky, but tell me, watching Struble play right now, it's not even a question like that you would take that guy out of the lineup. Are you serious? Like he's
Yeah,
so
but
ready
Marco,
back
there's a saying that you should not lose your job, your position because
there.
of an
That
injury.
already
And I think
that
this is
already
the case here. As much as Struble has played well, it's like he's the last on the totem pole right now in terms of having come up. Go back down. Keep harnessing what you have. Like you'll have a spot on the team
happened.
later in the year. I think it's more important. And
What does
if you
that
want to
say?
convert him, if you want to try to convert him to a forward, I'm
Yeah.
all for
Yeah.
trying something like that. I have no qualms about that. But to say that, keep Jack Eye down the rest of the year, I don't
Well,
see that. Uh,
I didn't say the rest of the year. Like it really depends what
yeah,
happens, right? But a couple things. Yes, everybody knows for the last year and a half I've been saying I would love to see Jack Eye play forward. So assuming they don't do that, which I really think they should, because I would love to have, I think he would be very useful on the team. Would he be a lot more effective than Pizzetta as a left winger on the fourth line? I think so. I think so. But listen, I don't think they're going to do it. I wish they would, but I don't think they're going to do it. But my complaint or my concern with bringing Jack-Eye back up at this point is we talked about this last week is we want to have a culture of merit, right? Like yes, everybody loves Jack-Eye, but any young player that's watching Struble play right now, what kind of message are you sending to the rest of the players if you send him back down with the way that he's playing right now? You have to, like, I get it that sometimes you have to send somebody down because of whatever, but in this scenario, guys, I just don't see how they could send Struble down the way that he's playing and send like the message that would send to the rest of the players. So I don't see Jack Eye. The only way that he gets up is if they make a move, obviously, like if they were to trade Harris and it opens something up. But again, I don't think they're going to bring Jack Eye up to be the seventh defenseman. So I think they would rather have somebody like Lindstrom playing seventh defenseman. They'd rather have Jack Eye playing minutes than Laval. So unless there's going to be the opportunity for Jack Eye to actually play in the lineup, I don't see that he's going to be called up until something changes.
People in
I
the
don't know.
chat
Well,
expect him to come back. Gary thinks he's going to be before caught up, but I don't think so too. I don't see him right now. And honestly, do you really believe Montreal need him?
Well, yeah,
I do. I do.
I
I
think we
I
do.
I think they're a different team when he's in the lineup. I think
Right.
that
The
he
Montreal
does
looking
create
good,
space for them.
1-0-1 this week.
Are they better?
Look,
So they
you
look
know what,
different, but are they
coach?
better? Enortap?
They
Are
are
they
more
better with them?
disciplined.
They look.
They are more play as a team together. I'm not saying he's bad against him, but I think right now they can handle the situation without him. So that's my point
Yeah.
behind that. And I said they don't
Yeah,
need him like they don't
temporarily.
need him to bring him
Temporarily.
back, whatever it is. But right now, I think they play as a team together. Without him, they feel okay right now. I don't see it's a necessary. That's my point. Or an urgency and after to bring him right now. That's my point behind that.
Yeah, but my issue with this is this. Like I even read, one of the comments saying he lost his job before the injury. Well, if he had lost his job before the injury, you would have seen him sitting in the press box for a game or two. He was
I don't think
never
he.
there. And I
I think
looked
he
at I
wasn't.
looked at all the analytics for all the defensemen, and he was not at the bottom of the seven defensemen that we have in any of the categories. If anything, he was always top 4 or 5. Does he make mistakes and sometimes, gets involved when he probably shouldn't? Like, yeah, maybe. But you know what? That's who he is. And that's what you need on the team sometimes. A
Mhm.
disciplined version of that kind of player. I'm not saying like a Reeves, that's not disciplined. But you do need somebody, and he hasn't played bad defensively. I
Yes,
dare
he
you
did.
to say,
Of
somebody
course he
that
did.
has played has
Yeah,
not made the same mistakes.
he was worse defensive. Like at the beginning. So last year,
No.
I would agree with you, right? Like Coach and I had our debates about this last year. I think he had a pretty good season last year. Again, he made some mistakes, but he didn't have a strong beginning of the year. Like he was out of position a lot. Enortap, like I don't think he was in the press box, but I don't think he was far off. Like listen to what Sandy Wee was talking about. Like he's like really getting him to focus on his play down low, and he was wanting him to see improve that. And then he was, right before he got injured, he was talking about his ability to, it was gaps, I believe, and also kind of picking up his guy on the, like, defending the rush was where they felt that he was really struggling. So maybe he would have played himself out of it, right? But to say that had a secured spot, like, that he's only played like 1 year in the NHL, right? Like, it's not like we're talking about like a veteran defenseman that we're insulting him by sending him down to the AHL because, like,
No, that's not the point. But they're all like that, Marco. I mean, Gooley's in that position, Harris is in that position, Kovacevic is in that position. That's because last year we opted to go with 5 out of the 6 defensemen as rookies.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to get a core of defenders that are going to make mistakes. But I just don't think that any of the mistakes that he made were any more pronounced than any other of the other players on that defensive core. That's what I'm saying. So because maybe he takes a penalty or two that are ill-advised, we're dumping on him.
Every game he was taking a penalty, Enortap. Not just 1 or 2. Like, every game he was taking.
No.
Oh yeah, Enortap. He late in NHL.
No.
He late in NHL with most minute penalty.
He was taking a minor penalty almost.
But that's because if you take a 5-minute penalty and then you get a 10-minute misconduct, it puts you up at 15 minutes. So it's not about that.
What the percentage of that he get a 2 minute per game? What do you think his percentage?
He was
I don't know.
I
didn't.
He was leading the NHL in minor penalties, not in fighting me.
No, he had, I believe, 47 minutes of penalty minutes.
You're right.
Yes, it led the team. Yes, but look at what Matheson has. Look at what Gooley has. Look at what even Justin Barron has. They're not as high, but that's not their style. That's not their style, though. Like, it's like saying you want to make Matheson into a stellar defender. He's more of an offensive type of defenseman. You can't change who they are. And what he brings to the game is important.
I don't mind Xhekaj taking a roughing penalty. I don't mind him taking a cross-checking penalty. What I don't want him taking is tripping penalties, obstruction penalties, because he's not positioned well in the zone. Tripping penalties, things like that, right? So if he's taking minor penalties because he's cross-checking a guy in front of the net and establishing his territory, that is part of his profile, and I'm totally behind that. But I don't have a breakdown. But in my opinion, from what I remember,
I don't
a lot of penalties were not like that. Like, there were some for sure. Anyway, listen, guys. Like, I think we all agree that Xhekaj is going to be an important part of the team moving forward, right? But what this all comes down to is that they have too many left-handed defensemen, right? Too many. So it's right now, like, let's use like a Forrest Gump analogy, right? Life is like a box of chocolates. Right now, the box of chocolates that we have, it's all the same flavor. We need to diversify the box of chocolates so that we have a little bit of different flavors, like you get what I'm trying to say. So we want to have the Xhekaj flavor in our defense, but there's too many of them. Like, there's just too many of them. So, but right now, I think it would send such a terrible message to every single young player in the Habs organization when a guy like Struble comes in, does everything that you ask him to do and more, is absolutely killing it right now. Absolutely killing it. And you send him down for what? There's no reason to send him.
What message has it sent to Xhekaj?
That you need to improve.
He does not deserve to play in Enortap. He does not play well.
Yeah.
He gave 9 games of the 17. He get a 2 minute right there. That's the reason why he's in Laval, because his defensive zone coverage is not there. His cap control is difficult about that. This is the reason he went to Laval, to work on it, to get more minutes, not only 30 minutes per game, but get 20 minutes per game, to learning more to get there. They were satisfied with the Harris, with Coley and Madison. That's the reason why he's in Laval. That's only simple over there, to get more minutes and to improve his defensive zone of the game. and overall, it was not play well. If you tell me he's better to go, you're going to say he should play fair with Madison Coley. It's not a the same kind of type of players the Jackai is. It's not the same level. You don't tell Consider Coley with Jackai.
He's not playing against the same
No,
line.
I'm not comparing them. I'm not
Well, you
comparing
were.
those two. But
Or you were
no,
saying
I'm
that
comparing.
you were saying that you can't say that those guys were playing. They weren't making as many. They were making just as many mistakes as Jackai was, but they're playing against
Yeah,
much tougher competition.
Yeah, but I'm looking at guys like Lindstrom and Kovacevic and Gouli and even Barron. Barron, we're starting to look at him very positively, and he's very good. I get that because he's getting points on the board. He's scoring. He's jumping into play. So our eyes are sometimes blinded by that offensive stat. But when you really look deep, he's losing a lot of battles defensively,
Yeah,
especially in
for
front
sure.
of that.
I'm
He's
100%
being pushed
with
off the puck. And
you.
he's not the only one. Unfortunately, I thought Harris was a little bit more consistent last year. This year, so far, he hasn't shown that. But I'm willing to give him a mulligan because, he's injured and whatnot. Ideally, I agree with you, Marco. If they can make him a forward, that would be the solution.
Oh yeah,
I just
I think
don't know if they'll go that route.
I think we're the only media channel in all of Habs land talking about this. It's the obvious solution. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't they even consider trying that? It doesn't make sense to me. But here, before we wrap up on Jackai and left-handed defenseman, I don't know if you agree with me, Enortap, but there's no point last year. If you look at all of Harris's play last year and this year, at no point do I think that Harris has ever looked as good as Struble has looked within these 10 games that he's been in Montreal. Like, if you look at so to me, Struble has shown way more, not just like, slightly better, way more than Harris showed me at any time since he's been with Montreal. Not even close for me. I don't know if you guys agree, but thinking back to all the games he's played, did he ever show you any kind of upside like this?
No.
The show. Guys,
we're trying to stir the pot a little bit.
I read the chat, guys. Now they put Trouble like the next Alex Prudenjado. Relax, guys. Now, relax. He played 13 minutes per game right now. He's going to be a good hockey player, maybe, but don't be too much excited about Trouble right now. Relax now. I like people jumping about this. He did not face any opponent first line yet in the NHL. Barely. He's not playing against Crosby every single shift. He does not play against, Matthews, everything like that. He's only a third pairing.
Yeah, he's been well insulated.
Is great. What he's doing right now is good. He show a lot of character, a lot of calm, no pressure for him. He played a good job. He create mistake like a rookie, understand that. But please, wait a little bit longer. Give him another 40, 50 game play, 16 minutes per game, and then we can categorize him maybe a second pairing. I'm not talking about, because in that chat I'm talking about. I'm sorry, maybe you guys.
But Coach, would you agree? So if you look at Harris, can you think of any stretch of games where Harris even looked close to being as good as what Struble has looked like so far?
The difference between Struble and Harris for me, over the difference about Harris is his consistency, Marco. What I'm talking about, like, he does not make, he doesn't
simple
have like a stretch or his bad game. He have a bad shift, but he reset after that. It will going to give you the rest of the game pretty good. It's consistency is really what is Trouble right there. It's not complicated. When we say defenseman, like you get a player, you're going to tell him, say like, don't complicate life. Don't try anything bigger at what you are right now. Just keep simple. Send option, bring this or that. You get your guy, keep control with that, cap control with that. You hit the guy in the corner. That's what he does. That's very well. He anticipates a little bit better what I expect, but we have to wait. It's like a goaltender, Marko Enortap. He take at least 75, 80 game in NHL minimum before you really give you an idea what he look like. For me, it's the same thing, Trouble. We don't see enough here now to consider him like that. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, and in all fairness, Harris has also been asked to play both sides, right? Left and right. So that's not an easy task to undertake as well. So I'm willing to to look and give him chances. Uh, but I don't know. I think you have something special in Jack Eye, and I don't think I think part of the mistakes and part of the problems were due to the fact that he's a Mustang, and they're trying to turn him into a horse right now. It's going to take time. It's you can't take what's ingrained in you out of you, and nor would I want that, because guess what? If Jack Eye is not what he's shown in terms of physicality, then he's not on this team.
But guys, like Enortap, I don't think any of this is abnormal. Like, to be honest, did anybody ever predict that Jack would be playing in the NHL, an undrafted, like overager and junior? Like,
Yeah, you're
he
right.
should,
You're right.
in theory, he shouldn't even be anywhere near the guy's miles and miles ahead of where he should be, in his progression and everything. So it's not, to me, it's not disparaging that he goes down and plays some time in the AHL, and like the guy is like so ahead of the curve. Like, even for a blue chip prospect that was, say, even like a second or third round pick that was drafted, it even there's the sophomore jinx, guys. Like, so this is totally normal what Jack Eye is going through, and it's that's why, like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
shouldn't have our hair shouldn't be on fire over this. But to
No,
me,
no,
like, at
not
the
at all. That's not the
no, like
point.
no. So I
That's
think it's
not.
totally fine. And well, especially coach's hair is not going to be on fire, but the rest of us shouldn't have our hair on fire, because it's part of the natural progression for him to do that. And at the end of the day, like, it's just there's too many left-handed defensemen, and I know coach is going to be angry at me, so I'll be quiet now. Go ahead.
I think for me, Jack Aaron now is at the right spot. He take at least a 2 month, a 3 month there, play 30, 40 game over there. We'll see what he look like. And then after the trade deadline, you see where we are, what they have missing, call him up over there. I think that would be the right things to do with him for the Montreal Canadiens at the end of the day. But I just
Sure.
point you guys.
Well,
It's funny, guys, that the route of any players is so different, and sometimes our going to be like everybody was excited about Jacka last year, right? Everybody's going to get there. Look where he is right now. I want to just to be caution about Strobel. Right now, everybody looking him, he's looking great, everything like that. But guys, it's so young right now for him. It's just new. Wait
But
again.
the thing, but the
That's
thing
my
that's different, coach, but the thing that's different about Struble, I think we were all excited about Jack but I think anybody who knows hockey could look at him and, like, and you were the first one saying it, like, guys, yeah, he's awesome, but look at his gaps, and look at his, like, his rush defending, and like there's lots of things you can see with Struble. Like you said, his approach to the game, he makes things so simple for himself that really, and especially the way that Saint Louis and Step, we shouldn't like forget Stéphane Robida in this process, because he's the defense coach and we don't talk about him nearly enough, in my opinion. But to me, what's most impressive, and why I believe that he'll continue, and c'est pas un feu de paille, comme on dit en français. He's not like it's not just luck with Struble, is that the way that he approaches the game is very, very simple. So if he can, as long as he continues to do that, and I believe the coaching staff is going to continue to get him to do those things, then it's just giving him a little bit more and a little bit more. We don't need him to be a second pairing defenseman. We just need him to be like, like a 15-minute guy, kill penalties,
Oh yeah,
break
yeah,
up the.
yeah. Right. I will agree, Marco. The point is like people always put him like at the second pairing and the first pairing every time. That's my point behind that. No, no, no. I completely agree with you a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
patience, patience.
yeah. Bobby
But
Orr.
if you look about him, guys,
Anyways, to
if you look about him
to
in
answer
our
the
step,
question, yeah, at some point he'll be up.
yes, he will. But if you look about this, guys, go back at Northeastern College University. I'm sorry, University, right? Go look all the clip
Yeah,
of Jordan Harris and look about the clip of Jaden Strobel when they play together and when they not play together, right? and you're going to see, wow, Harry is going to be an amazing, great hockey player in the NHL, and no, Strobel. And then Strobel right now is looking good right now. So sometimes the development, you never know what it could happen. And sometimes it click a little bit later. Sometimes it click more when you go to next level. And the game of the
And
physicality of,
sometimes it doesn't.
and sometimes does not
And
about
sometimes it
does
doesn't.
not happen a lot. So
Right.
just give you some time. We my point behind that is we get excited too much. Sometimes quick, faster. Like everybody after the month of October, Joshua is going to be the next match specialty with Montreal, right? You have what 17 point whatever. You have 12.9 game. Just
Yeah, but I think with Joshua, while we're on that topic, really briefly, my opinion with Joshua Roy is that I think he's going to be the type of player that would actually play better in the NHL than he plays in the AHL, in my opinion. You know how there's those kinds of guys that they do well in the AHL, but then they actually play better with NHL players because they know where to be on the ice. Joshua Roy is like I'm not saying he shouldn't be in the like. I think he needs to get the reps down there just for the strength and speed of the game. But I think it doesn't like especially with the quality of team that Laval has right now. I don't know. I think he's going to be one of those guys that actually is better when he plays in the NHL than he is in the AHL.
here we go. Sound good, everybody? We're going to move on to the next thing. We can stay here about that one there. 3-2 Montreal Canadiens so far in December, and they are 2-2 at home. They are still 6 on the road. They got this week, guys, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Minnesota, Chicago. Then after that, Tampa Bay, Florida, and the Carolina Hurricane. On that one there, we want to during the week, the news, only news we got, Pearson got the ER now, and Eneman call up. We made it saying if Eneman is going to play at Winnie Montreal during the next week. Martin Silou, I think he said, Marko, you can verify, he's going to use him.
He said.
Right?
Yeah, he said he'll probably. He said probably. Like he didn't commit to it, but he said, yeah, we'll probably see him on the trip.
Montembeault was the goaltender for the Montreal during the week. He definitely become the goaltender number 1 for the Montreal Canadiens. So we know that. Montreal play Monday, they play Thursday, and they play Friday. What it will be your prediction of the goaltender?
Oh, I hate this game. You go ahead, Enortap. You're good at predictions, man. I suck at predictions.
Monday, Thursday, and Friday. I think we're going to see that 3-headed monster again. I hate to say it because I would love to see them go down to 2, and I know I keep saying this every single time we're together, but I think they're close to doing something. Everything I'm reading indicates that Hughes is just about there with a trade.
Well, now you see Carolina. You got Carolina that's made a move. You've got So
the Kings last go play.
They put Ranta. Right, that's right. So I'm sure something will come around, and he's probably being patient until he gets what he wants. But to answer the question here, I'm afraid we'll probably see 1-1-1, one each.
Yeah, I think you go Allen in Winnipeg, Montembeault against Minnesota. Actually, wait a minute. Is he where's Primo from? Is he from Minnesota?
He might be.
Who?
Primo. Where's
Primo?
They're from Philly. Okay,
Philadelphia.
Yeah. So then I would say it's going to be Allen, Montembeault, and Primo in Chicago, unless somebody gets traded. Breaking news. No, not yet.
No, I think he will think about who the best goaltender can make him to win the game.
I hope so.
So for him, I think he will.
Isn't it?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, isn't it difficult to make that argument all the time? Because as much as we want to win, the players want to win. We're also in the same breath saying you're not going to win anything down the road if you don't have that elite player that you picked up in the draft. Well, if they continue at this pace, you're not going to get them. I know, and Marko, we've talked about it. there's different ways you can get to that stage. But I'm just reflecting because I know the other night in the chat we were all talking about this with coach, and it came up. So it's a difficult situation to be in.
Well, I don't think that's their mandate this year, man. Like they're not just gonna they're gonna try to win games. I agree. So
Yeah, without a
yeah,
doubt.
they're at that stage. Certainly now, like you're playing 500, so there's no way that they're going to manage things any differently. So yeah, like to me, they go Allen against Winnipeg, and then it's a toss up. Like they might look at Minnesota and say like like obviously Chicago is the quote unquote easier game. But I guess they might look at it and be like, if we it would be too long for Primo to wait to play Chicago. Maybe they want to get him in sooner. Hard to say, but I would find it unless there's a move here. But maybe the move doesn't happen. But if the move is about to happen, if all three goalies don't play, then it will fuel the fire that something might be happening, right? Because you can almost say right now, Montembeault playing 2 games in a row. What does that mean? Like,
Yeah,
why did they all of a sudden decide to stop that
exactly.
cycle? Right. So
Exactly.
you can already be reading into the fact that they decided to break it. It's not just because Montembeault signed his contract. That doesn't make sense.
Not at all.
So,
The only problem we have
No.
this week is because they play back to back game. That's changed completely like the situation. It was play like one today, like one, then skip one, one, one. Montebo is going to get 2 games. But because the situation, I think because it's a back to back, and they don't want to wait until next Thursday, I will give them approximately 2 weeks with no hockey game. I think they would jump with Jake Allen and then or Primo, and then going to go back with Allen Montembeault after that.
Yeah.
we shall see. I think they'll go with Allen first.
About that.
In Chicago.
Donas was at the game with Hershey. He said Jacka looking good at Hershey. Alan asked this question. Doesn't go to the transition, so we can give us an answer. Only 1 minute each of you. Alan said that will Montreal trade at the trade deadline? I almost said they trade man. Will Monahan be traded at the deadline? Way to go. That's exactly what he said.
I'd say it's likely, like unless there's an injury or something like that. I would find it based on what he's done. There's enough there for me, anyways, as an observer, not seeing anything behind the scenes or anything. I would still be concerned about signing him to a deal just because of his health. Like I've said this on the show before. The only time I'm signing somebody to a multi-year deal that gets them over 30 is if their skating is elite, and Monahan doesn't fall into that for me. So it's not somebody that I would sign for many years, for 2-3 years with his health background. So I just don't see, unless he gets injured again and they can't move him, if he's tradable, it's definitely leaning that way, I think.
Enortap.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, as much as we love the play of Monahan, again, you have to think of what your goals were when you were starting this whole rebuilding process. And yes, it's nice to always have veterans on your team, but you can get veterans in numerous different ways down the road. Right now, the idea is to clear some of your cap space as much as possible. So if they can get rid of, like we were talking about, Armia and Gallagher and their contracts, if somehow they could get rid of one of those, I mean, I could see Dvorak also being on the trade block. I can see definitely Monahan will definitely help a team right away. The only problem is they're going to have to be very careful how they approach this, right? Acquiring, and we alluded to this earlier, just keep acquiring first round picks or draft picks isn't the way to go. And we're seeing it even with Arizona. Yes, they've improved this year, but they have about 6,455 draft picks over the last 10 years, and they're not moving. I mean, they're moving slightly, but it's not anywhere near the pace that it should be by now. given that they've been at the bottom of the league for a number of years or close to it.
I was skeptical to not trade him every time like that, but the key behind that is they need. For me, it's because I'm thinking longer, a long term. I think Montreal need to sign a UFA this year, and they cannot afford to give him $5 million per year. Yeah, two risks
Yeah,
come with Monahan. In my opinion,
injury.
at 30, 31, 32 years old. So for me, it'd be better if they trade him and then take that kind of money and go get a secondary top six Marko and Enortap. Like you don't have to get a William Nylander. Go get someone under
Yeah,
him. Approximately
We all
five
know that
million dollars,
we
five
all
point
know
five.
that you want them to sign Gensel. We all know that you want Montreal to sign Gensel.
Who?
I think we all know that you want
Gunsel.
Montreal to sign Gensel this summer. That's your target, right?
Quanzel?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no,
We got
no,
Uh,
thank you.
I think it could be a good asset for the Montreal Canadiens. The problem with Quanzel and Renard is going to be the longevity of the contract. That will be the
yeah.
something they get.
Exactly.
That will be the only thing about that. And the you know me. So for me, uh, you can get a younger player for money at 25, 26 years old at about approximately $4 million. He can play top six second line. You need to pick up which one, but I don't have the name right now. You know what I mean? But I think that's the reason I will let go of money for that. And at the end of the day, guys, he play a third center right now.
Yeah.
He's not.
You go,
Yeah,
you try to go, if you can package Monahan with something, with a cup contending team and try to get like another new hook doc kind of player, maybe hopefully better, like even more elite, like
yeah,
somebody like that. That's kind of
Y-
what you're, looking for.
yeah. You have to cut that link already. What we got for Monahan has been a good
Yeah.
return based on what
Yeah.
they did with Calgary. So if they can convert this to, I'd say, either a very top B prospect or a low A prospect, that would be fantastic.
Exactly about that.
Wow. We
And
all
I
agree on,
answering the
huh?
question, guys. Sorry about that. I was answering about this. We get what we talked about this a bit earlier, guys. Weekly find it Suzuki, Caulfield, and Caulfield, Sakaski, and then Suzuki. The point behind that, Mr. Enortap, is that's maybe what you're looking for earlier. The graphic about that one over there. With they give you an
Yeah,
example. They find the right one. Like with Monahan, look about the sharing shooting on the net, right? The expectation goal. After that, the high danger scoring chance over there, and the sharing goal on the net too. Yeah, give you an idea where Sakaski is doing well overall with that line with the Caulfield is Sakaski with Suzuki. At least that's the reason. I think they find the right winger right now at that moment, and that's the reason the analytic number give you the best thing about that. So for
And
me,
he's only going to
yeah.
get better. And he's only going to get better, guys.
yeah, I agree. Uh, Look, he disagree. He does not going to get a first one pick for Monahan.
Okay. Well, so
I
Luke wants to
disagree.
see.
But I have a question for both of you. Yes or no? Is Ben Chariot get a first round pick? Do you think Sean Monahan he cannot get a first round pick?
It's not
Absolutely.
impossible. Like it depends on the marketplace, coach. Like the mark, you can't come. Like yes, teams they use the previous year's trade deadlines as a benchmark as to what the value of a certain asset is. Same thing as in the draft, right? Like every team has an Excel spreadsheet that says, okay, if second round draft pick here is based on other years is worth this. So there's pre-established value for certain things, but depending on the need, the marketplace that is there that particular year, these things can change, right? So there might be an existing precedent for kind of what Monahan, like a Monahan kind of player, can get you, but it really depends on the year. It really depends on the desperation level of the team, right? So to me, if I'm Montreal, again, I'm looking for not a reclamation project, like not somebody who's failed, but a player that isn't like a team that already has their top six locked in, and you have a young player that has potential that just hasn't had the opportunity to break through yet. I've brought up many times a player like Kaliev. I know, Coach, you're not as big of a believer in him as I am. Kaliev, for me, is a guy that has top six potential, but is not able to crack that in the Los Angeles Kings lineup that is stacked, right? Not saying it has to be that guy, but somebody like that, right? Like somebody who has really high end potential that isn't going to make it on that team, whether it's because they don't have the space, like the roster spots for him, or they're going to be there's going to be a salary cap crunch coming that they're not going to be able to extend him like an RFA that they just won't be able to fit in. So that's the kind of guy that I would target.
Well said about that. I just want to inform everybody the trade deadline, not a trade deadline, but the deadline for Christmas, I believe, December 19th.
The freeze, yeah.
Yeah, they freeze. So I just want to about that. For me, I think they will get only thing I would say money for Monahan is increasing the value is contract. So his contract at $2 million. So if you trade him, Montreal said I'll give 50%. It's only $1 million for the team get him, and that's the reason that we're increasing the value and return because of that situation there. A team is really thinking Marko and Enortap to be deep in the playoff, like not bubble. I'm talking about maybe the top 5, 6 team in the NHL, right? Could add a money in to be a part of the roster to compete with other team about this. About that. If you think about this, you have better chance this year. The Stanley Cup is winning in the Western Conference compared to Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and he brings flexibility to the lineup as well because you don't have to slot him in necessarily as a centerman. He can play on the wing. He can play up and down the lineup like we're seeing. So that's invaluable when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Good luck with great comments with that. Patrick said Monahan at 4 years at $4 million, way better than any second round pick. About this,
if he could stay healthy,
that's the
if he could stay healthy, I would probably agree, but I wouldn't gamble on that.
Guys, like Patrick, skating. The problem is if somebody's not a natural elite skater, like I've always used this example, right? When Montreal, when they extended Jeff Petrie, I wasn't as nervous because he can skate. So, but if you look, say, like a player like Gallagher, that's why maybe this is a tougher contract, right? Because as their offensive production starts to dip when they get older, at least they can still do other things to your team, like kill penalties effectively. They can get on the forecheck. Like look at Andrew Cogliano. He was able to extend it like a player like that, right? Able to extend his career and play different roles on a team because he can skate. He can still contribute. He can still do so many things. But when you can't skate at an elite level, and Monahan is not an elite skater now, and with the amount of hip problems that he's had and all the stuff that he's had, even if he stays healthy, he's not going to be able to be the type of player, especially in a system that St. Louis wants to play. Coach, you were talking about it, right? Like, think about, is Monahan going to be able to play the kind of system that St. Louis wants to play in 2
because
years?
he's so smart, Marko, because he's really a great hockey player with hands, everything like that. I think I look about every player like I don't look because you have too many players, but I'm thinking about okay, what kind of player they can get something like that. And I'm looking for Jordan Staal, right? Jordan Staal is 34 years old, become 35 years old. Mine is at 29, so yeah, 6 years younger, right? You can get more money, but the body of Monahan is maybe like 35 years old in NHL right now, right?
Exactly.
And Monahan Staal got a $2.9 million for 4 years. So if you can drop that kind of compare, you get Monahan at $3 million, so $3 million for 4 years. I think he fit and the system of Montreal Canadiens. The first 2 years, I think it will be great. After that, I'm not sure about this, but I think he will fit because he's a leader. If you lose Savard, if you lose other veteran, I think at low price, Monahan fit. But over $3 million, I will not touch it because exactly what Enortap said, exactly what Marko said, slower, and then his health.
$3 million, absolutely. Like he was saying, $4 million for 4 years. No. That's too much.
It's a
But
bit too
that's the
much. Yeah.
contract with Jordan Stahl is really compare if you think about that, because Jordan Stahl is a third center, veterans bring a lot on the table, off ice, on ice. And that's why Shaman can play a role that way there. Remember, guys, Shaman make is already his money. Like before, when you hit your contract at 27, 28, usually you're looking for big money. But at the end of the day, Montreal Canadiens gave him a chance to be who he is right now.
Yeah.
Manan get married. Manan want to have a family, kids, everything like that. I think he have already one earlier, like 1 year ago. So I think he's changing his mind about that. Again, I could be wrong here, but you
No,
never
you're right.
know.
You're right, Coach. You're right. And ultimately, it's in his, the ball is in his court. He will decide. If you say he's made his money and he's absolutely happy being here, then this will not have been a year where he was just banking on himself to accumulate stats and sign another big contract down the road with somebody else. If what he desires is to go after that cup somewhere else because he doesn't see it happening within his span here, then he's going to go.
So remember, my headline was about Savard, right? It's balancing. Okay, what is the value of the return versus the value of keeping him, and the
Yeah,
difficulty of replacing him, right? To me, Savard is way more difficult to replace because there's just not that many right-handed defensemen that can bring what he brings. While Monahan, in my opinion, if the return is moderately good for him, he's easier to replace. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier to replace someone like Monahan than it is to replace Savard, in my opinion.
yeah.
If you
Forwards always are. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right, let's move on with that tonight. It's funny conversation. We can get there. Pretty goalie. We talk about this, so I don't want to, because we have only 10 minutes to go. Add trade deadline was one conversation, so it's good to hear that. Very quickly, the World Junior Championship is confirmed. Fowler and Hudson are part of the Team USA. Beck is already with Canada. We know already Mazar is going to be with Slovakia. And if you go a bit more deeper about the app prospect, a lot of people are off right now. They don't play a lot of game, everything like that, because Christmas coming, the juniors coming. Then you're going to see, the OHL, the WHL would be kind of shut down very swiftly. But you have a tournament in Russia under 25 years old right now. And then you have the Bogdan is bugging a lot of players right now in their coach KHL. He dominates that tournament as a defenseman right now. He's considered one of the best defensemen in KHL at 20 years old. Draft, I believe, 4 rounds for the Montreal Canadiens last year. A lot of people was really surprised they draft him at 20 years old. Going to be 21 years old. It's the same situation with Mitch Cobb. He's going to stay and over there, but he works with Larionov, and Larionov use him like Mike Madison in Montreal. 24 minutes, he have an average of 23 minutes. He have a point again. He score and he have points on that tournament. He's considered one of the top best under 25 years old right now in Russia. As a name you don't have to forget. But again, don't expect him in the next 2 years. The timing maybe would be good on Montreal. One is going to be the thing will get better. That will be the next 3 years, and I expect him to be a part of the Montreal Canadiens. He's a right defenseman, only at 5'11", 135 pounds, I believe, but he moved the puck a lot, and he's really oriented offensive. Can he become a Tony Krok on the defense on the right side? I don't know, but it's a name you don't forget on your Montreal Canadiens prospect. I don't know if you want to add something else.
I think it's good. Like, it's going to be a tougher tournament for Team Canada. Beck's going to have a lot of responsibility, but it's going to be a good experience for him. They're going to be counting on him quite a bit. It's going to be a tougher tournament for Machar too. Like, not a lot of returnees for Slovakia. Slafkovsky's not going to be there. I don't think Nemec is going to be there either. So might be a tough tournament for Slovakia. So really, if you're a Habs fan, are you going to be? Here's a good question for people in the chat. Most of us here are Canadians. Most of us are actually in Canada, but are there a lot of people that are going to be rooting for Team USA during the World Juniors because Fowler and Hudson are on Team USA? I know for me, I tend to root for the Habs prospects more than the country. I hate to say that, but but I'm curious to see, do other people kind of feel that way too? Like start rooting for other countries against your own country because of your prospects?
I'm sorry about that. And after,
No,
You don't? You
Canada
still
first.
really? Yeah?
No, I obviously want Hudson and Fowler to do well, but in the
Yeah.
end, if they were to meet in the finals, if that's possible with uh, the standings or how they end up, I'm definitely going Canada, no doubt
But
about
what if
it.
Fowler's in net,
Just
though?
one question. Yeah, one question is Beck the only returning player to Team Canada?
There's
yes.
only two. No, there's two. There's another one. There's
There's
two.
two.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you can
See, that's
he's barely a returning player. He
I think it
played
was the
like
only first forward, maybe.
oh,
only
okay.
four.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's the only forward. But he only
yeah.
played
He
four
he was
periods.
called up.
Yeah, he only played 4 periods, so he's barely a returning player.
Yeah, it'll be tough for them.
I'm
I
sorry about
think
that.
I think the U.S. and Sweden are probably Sweden. I
Yeah.
think it'll be the most experienced team in terms of returnees, and you'll have to watch out for that. But U.S. is probably one of the most talented.
All right, we are at the end of the show, guys. We'll talk about the prediction of the 3 game this week for the Montreal Canadiens. We did Winnipeg, Minnesota, Chicago this week. Montreal is going to play for the upcoming tournament, but we have to congratulate some people last week. So Enortap is GM. So I don't know who's GM. Is it Jake McEnway? Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. I look all night to see if we have another GM in the chat. I do not see anyone. Although the fact is Jake McEnway. So if it's Jake McEnway, congratulations. If it's not him, and you said, no, I did it. But let me know in the chat if your name is JM. And look, no, go change your name right now to put Jack Smith, Jack Martineau
Jack
there.
Matheson.
Look, we recognize you, by the way. So I want to
Jean
be sure
Meloche.
about that.
Jean Meloche.
So last week, we get by point in our tap, Marko.
Yeah.
Would you like to send the point, or you prefer to go with the record?
It's up to you. Whatever you like.
I like the record personally. I think it's more embarrassing that way.
All right, so let's go with the record. I'm not difficult, me. It's easier to go
No,
by
you're
point,
you're
but
easy
it's
going.
harder with the record. So let's go with record for everybody. And I will turn off my phone. My shit go everywhere.
Let's
So,
let's
and
see the
after is
teams
the
again.
winner, Mr. Marko, and we go with the golf tournament winner of the whole. So, Enortap start the driver, and we'll see how long he can carry on the ball this week, Mr. Enortap. So, let's see what you got tonight
we-
for the prediction of the week.
Can we see the teams again? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, sorry
So
about
3
that.
games. Okay. Easy as pie, as somebody would say, or easy as cake. 2-1. 2-1-0.
For Mr. Enortap, go 2-1.
And you probably
Marko?
are guessing where my 1 is.
Yeah. I don't think that we play very well against Minnesota ever. It was probably our previous game against Minnesota is probably one of our worst games of the season, if I remember correctly. So I'm gonna actually go 1-1-1. I think maybe we get a tie out of Winnipeg. We lose in Minnesota, and then we win in Chicago.
All right. Gary Connery go with the 1-1-1. Gary Connery announced his prediction of the week. Gary Connery go 1-1-1. Oh, Luc Laverson. No, coach, you are not dreaming. Luc Laverson, I think he did not dreaming. What you did, man, look, you make a mistake, you click on the wrong number. That's the problem you got, man.
Nick
He's
always goes
dyslexic.
he goes one extreme to the other. It's either 0-4 or 3-0. Like he always goes, it's all or nothing with Nick.
Yep. Run with Kings go with 1-1-1. GSM follow Luc. About that, very interesting. 3-0 for GSM. Real Deal go with 1-2 and 1-2-0. And I know there will be my prediction at the same time. For me, it will be 1-2. Alan Vayako go 1-2 also, guys. I will just pick up everybody here. 2-1, Maurice Robillard. He listen in our tap on that one. And Randy Walkman go 2-1. Very interesting. You expect to beat the Winnipeg Jets, Mr. Enortap?
Yes, I think the Jets will beat Montreal. Unfortunately,
They're due for a loss. They're due for a loss. The Jets.
I think they lost. Didn't they lose a couple nights? No, maybe not. You're right. Yeah, they've been on a
Patrick
good streak,
Leblanc go
but
3-0. François Pitt go 1-2. That's the prediction of the week about this.
game that's
The coach, I am GM Randy Walkman about that one over there. Possible, maybe Sebastian, who knows? That is subject one at a time. Or maybe Mark D699, and maybe is the GM about that one over there. But anyhow, that's concluded the show tonight, guys. It was a really good show. Monday, tomorrow night, we do the show at 7:30. The game starts 7:30, not 7 o'clock. We'll be live streaming about that game over there. Tuesday, we're going to go back with normal, maybe day off, we'll see. But Wednesday, we do the locker room report, guys. And that is Santa Claus is in the house Wednesday night. And we're going to talk about the wish list of the Montreal Canadiens for the Christmas present for each player or the staff management, everything like that. So, what happening? We're going to wish the best for each players if we can have enough time for the show, and then we're going to return later after that. And we're going to talk about the year of 2024, what we wish for the 2024. So it's a fun show. Next Wednesday again. This week Wednesday we do the locker room again. Then Thursday, Friday we do the Montreal Canadiens. So we don't have a fun Friday night. So your prediction have to be sent to me by email if you want to participate Saturday. So don't forget about that. We're going to talk more during the week, but that's pretty much what we got here and the show tonight. I try to be sure we get anything else. We don't have any other prediction of the night. That's conclude, guys, the show. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Mr. Enortap or Mr. Marko. Marko, are you be there Friday? Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah. I'll be there Wednesday, yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to wish you Merry Christmas. We're going to wait Wednesday.
All right.
No, we wish you Merry Christmas, but we'll do it again afterwards.
All right, awesome. Look forward to it, guys. Breaking news.
We have a breaking news, not in NHL, only in the Hockey Nation. It's RJ Calabro birthday tomorrow. We have to wait for the song tomorrow. But tomorrow, RJ is going to turn 32 years old. I think he's been there for many years, but we don't know too much about that. But congratulations, Mr. RJ. We're going to give you a happy birthday tomorrow. Until then, what a great night, everybody. It was fun to be with us. We got over 50 people. We got a couple more likes, and we got a lot of great conversation in the chat. You guys, we are on fire like you do, Mr. Enortap and Mr. Marko. We appreciate a lot to be with us every single time we turn on the show. And without you, it will be impossible. That's the reason we bring you back every time we can. So thanks so much for your time. We are for Hockey Nation Show. Very grateful about this. But before we leave, we want to thank everybody. I said one more thing to you. You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. Here we go. You have greatness inside of you, both of you. What a great show we got tonight. We want to thank Luciano as a moderator. Ron Wickane was hiding in the closet, Mr. Enortap, or he was in the chat tonight. That'd be awesome. Wow. That'd be great. In the closet. And then look, he was again sarcastic like he does every night. But what an extremist man he is from 3 to 0-3 for 3-0. He feels the optimism. He feels good about the Montreal Canadiens. That's the most important thing. We have so many people to thank in that chat. Great conversation. Patrick Leblanc always been there. GSM did very well too. and many others, guys. That's the reason we keep up with each one of you. Alan Bayako, we wish you an amazing, great night. Randy Walkman, good to see you during the week this week. Hopefully, see you around with the Hockey Nation show because we have a lot of NHL to talk about. What a crazy standing this year. That's maybe the most parity standing I never see so far. But until then, guys, be well, be health. Find a way not only to meet your day, find a way to meet the second half. Or what, Marko?
Your 2023.
He did it again. Have an amazing, great night, everybody. The Hockey Nation show. Ab Nation want to tell you one more thing. We love you, people. Have a great night, both of you, and the rest of the chat. I will see you tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern Time.
Nice, guys. Everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Luke. Good night, Randy. RJ, good night. Here we go. Oh. Booyah run.